Oh boy, Waves released another new plugin. Is anybody surprised by that? This one is called Magma Tube Channel Strip. It's kind of a play off of the BB Tubes plugin that they just released, but now in sort of a channel strip format that makes your workflow a lot easier. This is what Waves says about the plugin.
Plugin reacts like classic mixing consoles where the internal signal flow keeps your sound feeling glued, cohesive, and organic even at the most extreme settings, making it very hard to go wrong.
Sounds pretty cool.
With this plugin, we sought to give you the absolute best, most textured and detailed analog sound yet available in a channel strip plugin.
Okay, cool, but what makes this unique?
Giving you a huge range of sounds from subtle character all the way to the most aggressive tube coloration, dynamic pump, and analog character. Preamp consists of adding rich harmonic saturation, EQ, tonal shaping, dynamics, blah, blah, blah.
So let's take a look at what this plugin is doing under the hood to see if it actually aligns with what Waves says it's doing. And then I'm gonna pull it into a session, demo it on a bunch of different sources so you can hear it in action and see if this plugin's right for you. And by the way, if you are looking to pick up some free plugins that sound pretty cool, I have a free downloadable guide for you in the description. It has a list of all of my favorite free mixing and mastering plugins. So if that sounds interesting to you, go and get that guide. You're gonna love it. Trust me, it's good. It's really good. All right, so here is the Magma Tube Channel Strip. So unlike BB Tubes, which was released maybe about a month and a half ago, we're limited to just a drive knob and then a few different points for a high-pass filter. So we can have 60 or 110. There's a polarity inversion knob right here. This plugin comes with an EQ section. So it has a high shelf. It has a tunable mid-range bell shape, which we'll get into in a second. And then we also have a low shelf here for bass frequencies. Something that I actually really like about this plugin is the dynamic section. We have an expander and a compression knob. Waves has a few other channel strips like the EV2 that I like to use often when I'm mixing drums. And I always lean on the expander and the compressor because they have a really punchy movement to them. Allows you to really tighten up the sound of a snare or a kick drum or toms or whatever. And a feature that's really nice in terms of usability is the fact that they've put both the expansion range and the thresholds into one knob. So it eliminates the step of having to go and adjust the range of your expansion and also the open and close settings. It's all dialed into one knob, makes it super fast to use. A similar thing is happening with the compression knob. It's going to adjust the makeup gain and the amount of compression that's happening. So having these two on deck make it super fast and usable. So if you want to use this as a gate instead of an expander, all you have to do is click this knob. And you can also turn this compressor into something really gnarly by clicking this smash button that just basically is going to adjust the attack and release settings and make it a little bit more aggressive. It also changes the ratio of the compression. And this is just a really pretty looking volume output knob. And if you want to adjust your meter, you can just turn this screw. I don't know anybody that would ever adjust the meter, but if you want to, you can. That's it. I missed one quick thing that I want to point out. Waves just updated their graphic user interface to include this little screw right here to adjust the sensitivity of the drive knob. If you want to have more saturation without increasing the gain, all you have to do is turn this to a higher number. Or if your signal is really hot already, you can just turn this back a little bit, and then that will make the saturation less noticeable. So this is just a way to do some additional gain structuring before you hit your drive circuit. Now, if we increase the EQ, you can see it's just tied right to this little EQ shelf here. And if we raise it by 8 dB, we're getting about 8 dB here. So the values are pretty accurate. The shelf frequency seems to be sitting probably around 10K. So it should add a nice little bit of air or sparkle to anything that you use this with. We go to the bass frequencies. We raise this up. So it looks like we're at maybe 200, 300 hertz for the bass shelf. Nothing fancy seems to be happening. It just looks like it's literally acting like a regular EQ. Maybe there's some fancy stuff going on. I can't really see it using Plugin Doctor. This mid band is adjustable. It has a bell shape. There's no Q to it, so you can't tighten it or make it more broad. Now, what's interesting is as I raise this up, you can see the general shape. It's a very broad shape, so it's going to sound probably more musical and less surgical. But as you cut it, you'll notice that the Q or the width of that peak actually tightens up a little bit, okay? So you can see It's a little bit more pointy here. That's going to allow you to get in and dig out some of those harsh frequencies if you're using this to cut certain things that are annoying. We have this set to 1.6 kilohertz. But if you look on the frequency response, it's at like 3,600. So this thing is off by like a factor of 2, right? If we go all the way down to 100 hertz, we're actually sitting at like 140, 150 hertz. So if you're the kind of person that is really analytical and just puts in like, oh, I want my snare to sound bigger at 200 hertz, guess what? It's going to be boosting almost 400 hertz. Okay, so just be aware that this value is not accurate at all. So I did a quick and dirty test to see if this drive knob is the same as the BB Tube's drive knob. And from what I can tell, it's slightly different. It's not the exact same. So don't think that if you buy this tube strip that you're going to be able to have the same sound or same tone as the BB Tube's saturator plugin. We are getting odd and even order harmonics, right? Our test tone is 100 hertz. We have harmonics at 200, 300, 400. Then once we hit the ceiling of this plugin, because there's an internal threshold for the saturation to start occurring, we're going to start seeing all of the harmonics that it's generating. Now, if we go back, I want to point one thing out, and you'll see that right here, we have a sharp roll off of frequencies above 20K. Okay, this is designed, I think, to help with anti-aliasing. They're rolling off as much as they can right after 20K before Nyquist, just to try to minimize any aliasing. However, you might be able to see that we do get some aliasing. What we're looking at here is the response of a compressor to an increasing audio signal. So this will just show you the shape and the flavor of the compression that's happening. So as we increase the compression, we're increasing the level, okay, the volume is going up, and then it's no longer staying straight, it's being compressed and flattening out. Okay, if we crank this all the way up, you can see it starts folding over. We have a very gentle curve to this, so it should sound pretty transparent. It might have a cool movement to it. Something very interesting is that this compression doesn't continue to stay consistent. Once you get to these higher levels, it actually starts uncompressing. We'll hear what that sounds like when we demo this on drums. If we flip over the smash button, let's see what happens. So we get a more aggressive ratio, so it's compressing harder, but we still get a little bit of that behavior where it starts to let up in those higher levels. So the track we have today is by a band called Eden Rose. I have a link to them in the description, so if you like what you hear, go and check it out. Support them, play their music. So let's see how the Waves Magma Tube Channel Strip plugin sounds on all these different sources. So let's start by putting it on a snare drum. Let's make that a little bit more reasonable. So here's the snare drum that we have so far. Roll the windows down, sounds pretty good to me, right? I'm wanting maybe a little bit more punch and snap, a little bit more air and space to it. So this plugin should have everything we need to do that. So let's see how it holds up. Okay, so let's activate the tube channel strip. Cool, let's give it some drive. Okay, you can really hear it starting to break up, but I think it sounds kind of musical. It doesn't really sound that terrible for us cranking this to 10, right? But this is way too much. It's nice that it doesn't destroy the transient either. So I would say probably somewhere around like 4 to 6 is probably a sweet spot. Now in the manual, you'll see this little light flashing on and off. Waves says that if it turns green to yellow, it's probably in a good range in terms of total harmonic saturation. But if you really drive it hard, it turns red, it's probably not the best unless you're going for a stylistic distortion sound. Yeah, I like it right around here. I don't think we really need an unnecessary high pass filter, but we can put it on and see what it sounds like. I'm just going to leave it off because I don't think it's really changing anything, and I don't like to filter things out if we don't need it filtered out. Filtering, I think it sounds better on a group track, but we can talk about that in another video. All right, let's give it a little air. Let's see what we got with this high band. Wow. That turned it into like white noise, right? But a little bit goes a long way. I kind of like that. Let's see if we can fatten it up. Maybe we could do a little bit of a bass cut. Not really feeling that. So if I have it set to the 100 hertz setting right here, we can get a little bit of the power back out of the fundamental. So I'm just going to very gently boost that because these are really wide bells and I don't want to enhance any of the mud that's kind of in that snare drum. But I just want a little bit more meat there to keep up with that sizzle, okay? Let me show you how I use the expansion and the compression knobs here because I think this might blow your mind. So I like to start with compression and get a really over-the-top compressed snare drum, something that's really powerful, almost like a cannon. And then we use the expansion to shorten it up and tighten it so it sounds punchy and doesn't just have this huge space to it. Okay, so let's try increasing the compression. The transients are still cutting through it, but we're getting a lot more fatness and bigness out of the track now. Like normal compressors really just murder the transients, but this one is a little bit more forgiving. So I'm liking that. Let's try the smash button, see what that does. All right, that's too aggressive. We're losing all the transient. So let's bring this back. Now let's tighten up the snare drum with the expand knob. There you go. So we're still able to get those ghost notes, and you can hear it's a lot tighter, right? The problem with really compressing snares is you bring out so much of this room, right? The expand knob allows you to dial that back so you can get the really aggressive sound up front and then a nice tight decay. Let's A/B this with the original. That snare sounds so weak. Oh my God. All right, but I'm cheating, right? It's not gain match. So let me adjust the gain. So with the tube channel strip, it just gives it a little bit more space, bigness, and it seems like it's going to hold up a little bit nicer in a mix. It's not so pokey without this channel strip in it. All right, let's try this on something with a little bit more bass frequencies, like a kick drum. Let's hear what the kick drum sounds like with this bypassed. It's nice, it has a nice weight to it. So let's see if this channel strip will ruin all the power we have in that kick drum. Okay, it's turning red and orange. Let's back it off. So like right around here, it feels like we're getting a little bit extended weight on the kick drum. It sounds a little bit closer to the listener, a little bit more aggressive and more well-rounded. Something that I think would translate really well to a small speaker. We put in these high-pass filters. We lose all the sub out of our kick. If you're going for a tighter sound, you could probably get away with the 60 hertz high-pass filter. For me personally, I love the weight and the movement that the really deep subs have for a song like this that's not super fast. So I'm going to leave that off. Let's see what this shelf does. If you're going for a Pantera kick drum, there you go. You just crank this to 10.4 and you're all set. But it does give a nice air. It doesn't sound harsh. It doesn't sound plasticky to me. I kind of like that. It gives it a little bit more point to it. Let's see what the bass knob does. Yeah, there's a ton of weight in there. But I feel like if you rely on this to add a little bit of sub to your kick drum, I feel like you need to go in and cut out some of the 200 hertz out of your kick drum because it does start to get a little bit muddy. So let's try to do that using this mid band. Yep, there's the mud I was telling you about. Nice. Okay, I'm digging that. Let's compress the hell out of it, right? Yeah. Again, I'm really impressed with this compressor. The default settings for the attack and release are in a really good spot. You're really keeping a lot of the transient. However, we are starting to lose a little bit of the sub. So I wish there was a way to maybe lengthen the attack a little bit more so that we could let a little bit more of that sub energy come through. But what we can do instead is just compress it less, and then we'll retain some of that sub. We're going to lose the aggression, right? But we can keep our sub if we don't go too over the top with that. Let's tighten it up with the expand knob. So if you're working on some really fast metal or something where the kick drum's going really fast, this might be your savior to getting a really tight drum sound. Awesome. Let's A/B it. Original. With this. Man, it just sounds massive. But again, I'm cheating, so let's offset the gain increase and match our levels. It's crazy how much closer the kick drum feels, right? It just feels right in your face. It's got a lot of like space, but it's still tight. It's like tighter than the original. It's perfect for rock. So far, I'm pretty impressed. This is sounding good. Let's put it to the test. I love to destroy my room mics. Let's put it on there and see how over the top we can get this thing. I'm not even gonna mess around with the normal compression setting. I'm going straight for smash, and let's turn it to 10, baby. Now, in this case, I recommend that we use this high pass filter. We don't want a bunch of bass building up in our room track because we are being so aggressive with it. So let's roll off a lot of that. Cool. Let's get rid of some more bass. Yeah. With room tracks, you want it to sound like it's literally like you're listening to a drummer in another room, okay? So in your mind, how that would sound is what we're going to try to do with this plugin. And I feel like those cymbals are still poking out, so let's try to attenuate those by adjusting this midband. Awesome. Digging it. Let's see what the expand knob does. Probably don't want to use it in this case because I like the sound of the room. I like the movement it's adding. But I'm a scientist, man. We got to experiment. Yeah, now it sounds like your 3-year-old toddler is playing drums in a well-treated room. We don't want that. We want a monster with small trees hitting the drum kit like this. Awesome. All right, digging it. Without it. Just so wimpy without it. All right, here's the bass guitar we're working with. Let's go to like the chorus. See what the drive sounds like. I actually really like the sound of this drive, and honestly, all of the Magma distortion plugins that Waves has come out with recently sound really good on bass. Just gives it a nice growl. It's kind of a little bit too sub-heavy, so let's engage this 60 hertz high-pass filter. Yeah, it just tightens it up, right? Let's see what the high band sounds like if we can accentuate the pick attack on those strings. So if you're doing djenty or metal or really hard rock, it might be nice because it gives a little bit of aggression to the bass. And it's also in a good spot where if you want to smooth that out For something that's a little bit more low key like this song, maybe you'd roll this back. Just take the edge off, right? And let's try to find the muddy frequencies in this bass and tighten it up a little bit more. Like right there. Let's see if the compression sounds good for bass. It might not. We'll find out. So really listen to the low energy of the bass guitar. See if it starts sounding more consistent, because it's a little bit boomy without it. And then also listen for movement. Does the bass feel like it's swelling in and out, or does it feel nice and glued in? Does a pretty nice job, especially like right around here where we're just starting to bite into the track a little bit. Let's see if the expand knob does anything cool. It just fades the bass out faster. I wouldn't recommend using that unless you hate your bass player and you don't want them to be in the song anymore. Is anybody else like really hot? I'm in a small studio with a lab coat on. Not the best branding strategy I've ever had. Let's see how this sounds on a guitar bus. So this is gonna be everything. It's gonna be the electric guitars, it's gonna be the acoustic guitars, everything. A little bit too ratty for me personally. I probably wouldn't want to saturate my guitars any more than they are, but you do you. So this bass knob adds a lot of wool to the guitars. So if you have really weak sounding guitars or you want to like warm them up a little bit, that might be a good one. For this song, I think this is in just the wrong place. It's not really where I want to add bass for these guitars, but whatever, that's okay. So that high band is really, really high again for distorted guitars. Might sound really nice on those acoustics to add a little bit air, but for everything else that's going on, I'm not really going to mess with the EQ. I feel like it's sitting pretty well. Let's see what the compression settings do to the guitars. Without. You could hear that that compressor like grabs all the delays in those guitars and really raises them up. So we got to be a little bit careful, but it does add a nice glue to it. So I'd probably pull it back or maybe not use it at all. I do like the movement it's adding, so we're just going to go really easy with it. Just something like that. All right, so let's listen before and after with this channel strip. Here we go. All right, let's throw this on the vocals and see what it's doing. Let me just play you the vocals without this.
To say goodbye, I don't wanna make you cry, dealing with mistakes, I'm a mess, I am still around.
All right, so these vocals already have quite a bit of air to them. They're maybe a little bit on the bright side, so let's see if we can get a little bit of warmth out of them using this channel strip. So my approach to that would probably be use a little bit of drive and then maybe play with this compression. We can try some of these EQ settings to see if we can just warm it up.
I will find a way to clear my mind. Take this time and drive all night.
For me personally, the vocals are already bright, so I want to avoid really driving them hard into this because it does start to get fizzy and sizzly.
Clouds above, what
Perfect.
am I thinking of? Gone a while, guess I'll move on.
This does add a nice little warmth to the vocal, which I'm kind of digging. Let's use this compressor to try to glue these vocals together. Here we go.
Mind, take this time and drive all night.
Nice. That's the warmth is there now. I'm feeling it. It's starting to really kind of lock these vocals in for us.
Clouds above, what am I thinking of?
Something I'm liking about this compressor is you can go really aggressive with it, but it still lets a little bit of those initial transients come through, or the spittiness of the vocal, kind of give it more aggression, a little bit more life to the vocal while still compressing the hell out of it. Let's try the smash feature. Here we go.
And drive all night. Clouds above, what am I thinking?
It honestly isn't that bad. If I would probably use something like this for maybe background vocals that you want to just lock into place, that you don't want to have a lot of movement. But for a lead vocal, I'd say keep that off and let's just let it ride right around here. Let's try before and after.
Clouds above, what am I thinking of? Gone a while, guess I'll move on.
So just brings the vocalist a little bit closer to the listener and kind of warms it up. So some considerations if you're thinking about picking up this plugin. Number one, do you already have a bunch of channel strips? If you do, you might not need this. I will say I do like the workflow, especially having the expander and the compressor that is automatically compensated when you turn those knobs, so you can very quickly dial it back and forth and get a good setting that you like without overthinking it. I know on the SSL style channel strips, there are so many knobs, there's a bunch of buttons and things, so it can kind of get a little confusing. I do like the drive knob that this thing has. It does sound pretty musical to me. Is it free of aliasing and artifacts and all that crap? No, I've showed you that, but could you really hear it when we're mixing? Probably not. To me, I thought it sounded pretty good on everything I put it on. I do really like the smash feature because that makes this more usable in different contexts. So if you're going for like a really aggressive compressor, you can still use this to achieve that effect. So if you find traditional channel strips clunky to use, maybe try this one out. If you wish there's more control over saturation or the color, then maybe you should just consider picking up BB tubes instead of the tube channel strip. I have a review video of that up here, so you can see all of the nuances of that plugin and how to use that for your music. And don't forget about the power of that expand knob when you're working with this channel strip on drums. So which instrument did you think the tube channel strip sounded the best on? Let me know in the comments below. And when you're down there, don't forget that I have a free download waiting for you in the description of all of my favorite free mixing and mastering plugins. So go and grab that guide. And with that, I want to thank you so much for your time and attention today. My name is Bobby Bela. I'm the mixing mastering engineer at Rayton Productions, and I hope to see you in another video.